Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Business 411. I'm your host, Elizabeth, and for today's episode, we have a very special guest. She is Miss Mikiela Gonzales. She's the founder, the owner of a math tutoring company known as MathWiz. And this is going to be very interesting because education is such a pivotal part of so many people's lives. And Mikiela is a thought leader in math education right now in Jamaica. And she's on the journey to becoming so much more and impacting so many more people, so many more students with all of her knowledge about math and math education. So without further ado, let's get into the conversation. Hi, Mikiela, how are you?
Hi, Elizabeth. I'm doing fine. I see that we have the same last name. I meant to ask you if you think we're related.
I know, when I saw it, I got so excited because I don't really meet anybody who has the same last name as me.
Yes, I meant to ask you.
I don't know if we are related. We should probably find out. That would be cool though.
Yes, it definitely would be.
Okay, so we're just gonna jump right in. So you're the founder and the owner of MathWiz.
Mm-hmm.
So just tell me a little bit more about yourself, more about MathWiz, what the company is about.
So I am Mikiela Gonzales, and I would have finished my master's about a year and a half ago. The master's was in economics, and then I did my undergrad in actuarial science. And as you can see, yes, there's a lot of math happening there. So I've always been good with numbers, always had just a natural talent for appreciating numbers. So, I mean, my expected career path would have definitely been, to go somewhere in the finance sector. And to be honest, I did contemplate it, but I suppose from a very early stage, I knew that my passion was not there. And I guess when we get into it a little bit deeper, you'll see that sometimes not because you're good at something means that, that's where your purpose lies. And I had to admit that to myself at some point. So in the past year, what I've been up to, I've been working with Eddie Focal as the content and operation manager. As I said, not so much for the PEP side, but we have a service which we offer to corporate companies, which is to offer online training and development for their employees. And I was at the inception of, the company branching off into that part. And so I would have lent my expertise there. So that's what I've been doing for the past year, to be honest. But as I said, in terms of how does MathWiz, come into play into all of this? So while I was in high school and even in university, a big part of my life has also been, dedicating my life to youth development. And, I was a part of youth leadership in different ways. So from a very early start, I kind of appreciated that everybody doesn't have the same opportunities, especially when it comes down to access to education. And I realized that, okay, I knew I wanted to play a big part in kind of leveling that play field, but I just didn't figure out exactly how I would do that, especially with this cloud over me, with everybody saying, okay, you're supposed to be into finance and you're supposed to do all these great things, but me kind of battling with myself to say, no, but what I really want to do is probably work in the Ministry of Education and work with, the math department or something like that. So that's just to give you a little background, I guess, in terms of, where maybe MathWiz started to come into play. I suppose you'll ask more questions to get some more of it out.
Yeah, so that sounded great. I kind of just want to dive deeper into you saying that, everybody expected you to go down a certain path, but you chose a different path instead.
Yeah.
So when was that moment that you finally decided that you're not going to do finance, but you're going to take on education and just youth development? When did you kind of come to that realization that that's what you're going to pursue?
Okay, so it was a two-part realization. So the first realization is where I realized it, but I honestly didn't take that leap of faith to say, you know what, I'm going all in. And then I'm going to tell you about the second part, which is where everything came full circle. And I was like, okay, it's either now or never.
Okay.
So for the first part of that realization, I finished the master's, finished with distinction. And as I said, I was offered many job opportunities in the financial sector. And I think that was the first time I had to kind of face myself to say, okay, you finish this master with distinction, you're, top of the class or in the top 3. Like, why doesn't it feel like I've figured out what exactly I'm supposed to do? Like, it just still doesn't feel right. And, I started to kind of introspect, because I do that a lot. I'm okay with asking myself questions. And, I started to confront those past experiences where I'm like, okay, when do you feel most alive? Like, I've heard persons ask, what is that career you would do if it is that, like money wasn't an issue.
Mhm.
And if I was supposed to be honest with myself, the thing I would get up and do every day is teach. Like, it's the only thing, if I'm having an absolutely bad day and I go into a classroom with students, I cannot explain the feeling to you, Elizabeth. Like, it's not a bother if they ask me the question 100 times. It's in fact, I actually like when they ask me questions, because I think it's so interesting, because I may be teaching a topic for the past 3 or 5 years, and then somebody comes and there's always that student every, they take a different perspective on a topic, and you're like, how did I never ever see that? And it's just so refreshing. I think it's unpredictable, which is also something that I appreciate about, being an educator. It's always going to be changing. But yeah, so the realization, I was actually at, I don't know if you've ever well, I suppose you maybe have some relations to Jamaica and stuff. So I was actually at South Avenue Grill.
Yeah.
And Terry Carell Reid, so she's been at a very important person at various times in my life. So even like when I was running for guild president and different things, I don't know. She kind of does this thing where she just pops up, drops her gems, and then she's like my fairy godmother. So I was at South Avenue Grill, and I saw her, and I know everybody loves Terry, so I was actually contemplating if I should go over to her and say hi as I normally do, because I was like, maybe she finally getting a break, let me not bother her. But then she saw me and she's like, hey, Mikiela, how are you doing? And she gave me this warm welcome. So I was like, okay, then I guess I'm gonna do that. And she was asking me, so what am I up to? And I was telling her where I was working and stuff. But I don't know, something led me to mention the math thing to her. And I really want to say that I feel like God was in the midst of that day and just aligning everything, because we sat down for about 2 hours. She gave me advice on business and everything. Garfine was there as well, which is her best friend. And they were basically saying to me that even for Terry, she was working at the Gleaner. She was always hosting and stuff like that. But I feel like everybody has seen where there was a complete shift from when she was hosting as like a side job, and whereas now everybody knows her as like the host. You know what I mean? Because it became her main business, and she was saying she had to be very intentional about it. So she was telling me that, Mikiela, the math thing, it can't be a side thing. Like, you have to make it the main thing. And until you do that, it's not going to serve you and others in the way that you want it to. She was telling me that, she's sure it's going to be scary and all of that. So I think a big part of even entrepreneurship is having mentorship. Just to have persons who take that leap of faith in different ways so that you can learn from them. I mean, yes, everybody's lessons and mistakes will be different, but it's still a matter of just speaking to somebody who has been there before,
Yeah.
And she was actually the one who came up with the name MathWiz.
Okay.
So we were there, and so she was there, and she was like, yeah, imagine if everybody just started to call you MathWiz. And I was like, okay, that's pretty nice. So I was like, all right, then. I don't know.
The light bulb went off.
Yeah, it felt right, And then maybe by the end of the conversation, Garfine was there, and he said something about square root, and then she was like, yeah, man. And then because the logo is like a square root, and it says, we're rooting for you. And they both kind of tag team and came up with that. So
nice.
I mean, if I ever really do get famous for it, I suppose I'll have to give them a lot of money for coming up with that, to be honest. So they actually helped me with the name and the slogan. And I mean, I left that conversation that day. I think I said it was the first part of the realization, because I knew it was what I was supposed to do. I guess I just still wasn't sure, how am I going to do that? Where do I start? When you're starting a business, as I said, I did actuarial science. I'm a very calculated person. I want things to be, you need to tell me all the steps before. We need to know exactly all the possible risks that we're going to take. And that's just not entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've learned that from Gordon, where and Gordon Swaby, he's the CEO of Edifocal, where I'm around him every day, and every day something new happens. You know what I mean? There's always a new risk to be taken, and something else that is going, maybe not in the way that you want, and you have to be flexible. And so I think at that point, I was not ready to, I guess, just kind of trust myself to say, Mikiela, you have all that you need. So just go ahead and take that leap of faith. So, I started something called Math Mondays, which was me posting on my Instagram, and I was, posting just various math tricks, because my aim is not only to tutor students who are still in school. I feel like I want Jamaica to get to a point, and maybe even the Caribbean, as you'll see when I start to talk about how my recent Zoom sessions, we had students from right across the Caribbean. So I feel like I stopped limiting myself to say I'm a teacher for just Jamaica now. Like I'm clearly,
Yes.
I can dream big and, think about the Caribbean because, yeah, so, we, okay, that part, I usually get emotional when I say that, so I lost my
You're
train
talking
of thought.
about Math Mondays on your Instagram.
Right. So I did the Math Mondays, right? And I was saying that the aim is not for students to only, like for only students. I wanted it to be for the young person, the old person, like especially the older persons who always had this fear of math. Because what I realized, Elizabeth, is that I can't reach everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, I'm one person. However, if I have somebody who's going to be a future mother, a future grandmother, something like that, who is watching my videos and they learn certain math techniques, then it means that they can help the person who's in their household. And for me, it's not, yes, of course, the business part is about the money and all of that, but it's also about the passion and what's the vision for it. And my vision for it is that every person should have like basic math skills, you know what I mean? So that they can help the persons at home. Like so many times, I'm also from, inner city community, and I can tell you that when I used to have math homework, like my mommy didn't go to school beyond the fourth form, like that would be like 10th grade. So when I came home with certain math problems, of course she couldn't help me. You know what I mean? Like she didn't get that opportunity. So who is gonna be there to help me? And so I think I take it very personal for me to use this purpose to empower others, to ensure that like they can empower somebody else in their household. Just by watching my video, they then have the skills that they need to go and help. As I said, maybe it's a niece, maybe it's a nephew, maybe it's just a neighbor, something like that. So as I said, that was like the first part of the realization that, okay, I really think I'm onto something that is bigger than myself. And then maybe in a couple months, I registered the business because I was like, okay, I know that's going to be a part of it. I got the business name, the business account for it, so those are like the more technical stuff. I feel like I'm still learning that side of it in terms of, like taxes, and because there's a passion part of it and then there's the administrative part of it. And that as well, I have learned that you can't escape, doing the administrative part of it. No matter how good of an entrepreneur you are, like that's what it's about. And that is what moves you from being an employee to an employer. Like you just have to take responsibility. Even if it's just you who is in the business, it's still just not solely about, okay, making the money. It's about, okay, how am I going to ensure that it's sustainable? How am I going to ensure that I can account for this? Because then maybe you want to do something and you want to get a loan, which means you have to show certain financial statements and that kind of thing.
Right.
So the second part of the realization came now, strangely enough, from Gordon. I was at a dinner meeting with him recently, and we were exploring different aspects of me moving to the pep side of Edifocal and stuff like that, and it was a fruitful discussion. But at one part, we're speaking about MathWiz, and he specifically said to me, so why don't you do it? And it's almost as if the same way I paused just now is like that's exactly how I paused, because I was like, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't really have an answer for him. And I went home and I was thinking about it maybe for a whole week. And I was like, so why don't you do it for yourself? Like, you know what I mean? And I think he said it, especially knowing that, he tries to encourage young entrepreneurs as well, just to go after their dreams and stuff like that. So I think he said it to me. Maybe I didn't even know the lesson that was going to come from it. But I do know that day has been like a life changer, because that is when I really had to ask myself, or like admit to myself, that what's stopping me from taking this thing full on is nobody but myself,
Right.
So I said, okay, let's make a move. So I realized that I changed my tone on Twitter, in terms of not just making it seem like, okay, yeah, man, this is a girl that loves math. Like I tried to communicate very clearly to persons. I'm like, okay, maybe a potential client is here reading my tweets, so I need to make sure that everything I'm tweeting is giving the relevant information that I would like them to have. So, I started to talk about how passionate I am about math, but not in just yes, I love math kind of way, but showing testimonials from persons who have taught before. You know what I mean? And as I said, it's just a matter of being very intentional. Same thing for Instagram. I mean, everybody knows that I love math, but something I decided to do was to start posting math questions every day, because again, that's building loyalty. You know what I mean? So there are persons who literally come onto my Instagram each day saying that, they look out for the questions that, they get to answer. And again, they're not, some of them, especially for Instagram, in terms of looking at my demographic, because I look at the analytics and stuff like that, it's not that they're customers for me right now, Elizabeth. But I guarantee you, maybe in a couple of years,
Yeah.
when all of them have children, like those persons, that they're probably going to need math tutors. You know what I mean? So it's also about moving to a space of thinking long term.
Right.
So that's really where, as I said, it was really a two-part, because the first part I realized, but I didn't act. And then the second part, that's where I really think I put action behind what was happening.
Right. So that second part where you put action, was that this year, or when did this whole thing really start for sure?
If I should be honest with you, about a month ago.
About a month ago,
I mean,
right in the middle of
yes.
COVID-19.
Yes, because that's the thing, Elizabeth. As I said, I was lining up everything from before, So I had the social media page, I had the business account, I had the business registered, but I don't even consider that the start of the business as
Yeah.
much as when I think I made the personal decision that, okay, this is gonna be like the priority. You know what I mean? So as I said, I think it was really about a month ago, especially, and it's funny because you said COVID. I think now is the best time for educators to take a chance on themselves, because right now this is where there's most uncertainty as it relates to children in schools. How are they going to adapt to learning? Can we facilitate learning online, especially in Jamaica? As I said, just as we were having internet problems at the beginning of this call, it's the same thing. Many times I'm teaching students, they can't get on the internet. That puts them at a disadvantage. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
and that's it right around. I mean, even when I was trying to do some live classes on YouTube for the students, and I was so excited, Elizabeth, because I was like, okay, they'll get to ask their questions. And then I really wanted it to be on YouTube and not Zoom, because I was saying, what if everybody doesn't really understand
Zoom?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially as a parent, you probably want to get your child on. So I was like, okay, I think YouTube is the safest one, because I think most people know to, just type in YouTube, they probably search songs and whatever else on a regular day. So I was like, okay, I think that's going to be it. And in the day, I had everything. I got the right equipment. I got my green screen, everything. And I was like, okay, yes, this is it. And then the internet, it was too bad. Like, the delay was all of maybe like 20 something seconds, which really just defeats the purpose of it being live.
Yeah.
Anyways, because then they don't get to ask their questions. And things like that just kind of make me feel like now is a time that educators really have to step up and, not just think about the money, but think about like, okay, the role we play right now can literally either move Jamaica forward or keep us at the same place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think educators have to take the time to rethink how it is that they're going to teach, how is it that students learn, whereas you used to maybe can go into a class and rely on the fact that, maybe you have a bubbly personality, so you can point out students and, get them moving. What happens when it's just, a screen and they can't see you and you can't see them?
Yeah.
Like, you have to rethink all of that. So it means you have to take the time to upgrade your skills. I know that's something that's not the norm in Jamaica. Yes, when you're in more structured jobs like the financial sector, you have the need to constantly update yourself on like what's happening and that kind of thing. But for especially professions like education, after you get your certificate, that's just about it. Nobody really pressures you to say, okay, are you keeping up with, the latest way to do these math tricks, because even while doing those Math Monday videos, I actually went online and I was looking and I was saying, wait, nobody ever taught me this when I was in school. That would have made multiplying so much easier, and I said, it's just a matter of taking the initiative to constantly upgrade your skill, just as if somebody has a product. Like, think about it, as great as Apple is, they still take the initiative to upgrade their product every single year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's never a feeling of complacency to say, yeah, man, Apple is that thing that everybody loves, so we just leave it. No, they're always thinking about what can we do so people have the earphones. They realize that the cords maybe get in the way and whatever. They think, all right, let's make AirPods. You know what I mean? Like, it's that constant freshness of just saying, okay, let me continuously think about how can I make this better. And I think that has been my approach while, really getting into MathWiz.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you say that too, because for want of a better word, but quote unquote extra lesson culture in Jamaica is so strong. And I think one of the reasons for that is because of there's a lack of, I guess, diversity in the teaching tactics. Like, you can learn it a certain way in the classroom, but that's not enough for kids, or they may not understand it how their teacher at school teaches it. So they have to seek, outside help. And I know for me, I went to Mikiela and I did extra lessons for some of my classes because I just didn't get it,
Yeah.
So I definitely see the need to diversify. And even now, as you said, with the online learning, definitely some innovation is necessary. I think it's forced a lot of teachers and educators to step up to a different plate
Mm-hmm.
where that is concerned. So this is really timely for real. I mean, 1 month ago, that's crazy. But I think that's amazing, though. It's definitely timely for what's going on right now, for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. And you know, when the whole CXC thing happened, I said, you know, okay, I was gonna have some free classes again because, you know, you spoke about extra classes just being, you know, a part of Jamaica's culture. But something that I did a research on before was the fact that it's almost as if extra classes are known to each person as being, okay, if you go to extra classes, then you have an advantage over somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, we
Yeah.
know that, okay, if you go to this extra class, then, you know, you're good for the exam. But then what happens when everybody doesn't have, you know, equal access to those exams? Like, is that kind of unfair? You know what I mean? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
for me, the research was kind of based on saying that, like, in school teaching needs to be doing what it's doing. So that if somebody goes to extra class, it's not because
You have to.
like they have to. You know what I mean? It's more so a case of, okay, yes, I just want that additional practice, but I shouldn't feel like I cannot do the exam if I do not go to extra classes. And I feel like that's where it's at right now. That many students, even when I teach them, first of all, the teachers don't even finish covering the syllabus. And I'm saying, like, how unfair is that? Like, you're going to literally go into the exam, you know, you're going to see these questions, and your teacher at school has not covered it with you. And, you know, I'm not going to just only blame the teachers themselves, but it's just that idea of the formal education system. Like, I think it just needs some reform. Like, how do we ensure then, or equip or empower the teachers so that they can finish it on time? Is it that they need somebody to help them with lesson planning? Is it that they need to do some training and development? Like, I don't know what it may be, but I feel like too often I hear that, you know, a teacher has not finished a syllabus, and that is why students need to end up coming to marathons or extra classes. When I had the marathons right before the exam, there's so many students, like, I feel like I was teaching them all over. And I mean, imagine you having to learn an entire syllabus within 2 nights. Like, it's just
Yeah.
unfair. And I felt like they were just put at a disadvantage. I know some were even telling me that they haven't had classes since like April with their teachers because it's online. You know, some of the time the teachers will say, I'm meant to come on at 2, and then the teacher just doesn't show up. You know, it's just that kind of attitude where, especially now where there's so many things uncertain, as you said, there's different learning styles for each student. Like, we have to make that extra effort to like really be there for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that whole extra class culture, I really wish it would go away. As much as I do offer extra classes, I just don't want it to be, as I said, the main event. You know, I would really love it if it's a case that, or in school teaching really serves its purpose. And, you know, as I said, it's a matter of empowering your teachers, getting more persons to even go into teaching. If it is that, you know, maybe they're stretched too thin with different subjects, having to teach different subjects, you know, let teaching be attractive so that more persons want to do it.
Exactly.
So yeah.
I agree with that for sure. So what exactly did you do when you launched MathWiz? Did you launch it by saying, you know, I'm going to host these marathons, or was it initially just you posting more on Instagram and Twitter? You know, what did that kind of look like in the beginning?
Okay, I think I started off, as I said, yes, posting the Mondays thing, but I think the official launch, I would say, is there was a particular day that I had one of those marathons with some of the students. And to be honest, I was having a really rough day, and then I taught them, and after teaching them, I felt strangely so refreshed, you know. And I went on Twitter and I was saying, oh my gosh, I just finished teaching this class, and, you know, I'm honestly just so passionate about this thing. But I think why I consider that the launch is because I think that was the first time I said out loud that MathWiz is the main thing. Like, I'm moving into making MathWiz the main thing. And so I think that was the day I clearly communicated to people who were watching on that, hey, I'm starting, this math thing is not just a side thing. Like, it's officially the thing that I'm going to pursue for the rest of my life, you know?
Right.
Or at least for the rest of my foreseeable, because I know people are always changing what they want to do. But for right now, I can say that's what I want to do. And I think that was the day I really clearly communicated that. And then, of course, as I said, I've continued with the posting. I had the business account. I've been managing, you know, like even using like social media ads and that kind of thing to, as I said, be intentional about how I actually go after clients. And, you know, it's kind of funny because even without doing that, just by the testimonials and the feedback from the math, you know, marathons that I had, like, so many parents are calling me and, you know, I thought I wouldn't, like when you're just leaving your job and stuff like that, so you're probably wondering, oh my gosh, what if I'm going to make the ends meet and,
Yeah.
the bills and all of that. But to be honest, like God has been like so, like just magnificent because He really showed up, and I feel like even the move definitely was just a very spiritual move. I feel like I was given direction that, I had everything I needed and I just needed to take the leap of faith. And as I said, the parents have been coming in, they've been asking, and I don't think I'm worried about the financial aspect of what will happen. You know what I mean? Of course, nothing is perfect, and being an entrepreneur, there's always that risk of, it could be here today, gone tomorrow. But for now, I feel like I've really got some clients, and I'm gonna work to ensure that I don't get complacent, make sure that I'm doing the very things I told you about, which is ensuring that I'm always like improving the product. You know what I mean? So if it is that I can go online and see what other countries are doing to enhance the learning experience for their children, then I'm going to see how best I can bring that to Jamaica,
Right.
Something that there's a guy in Trinidad, his name is Kerwin Springer. He's actually like the lead, I don't want to say Caribbean YouTuber in terms of like math. He does other subjects as well, but I really take inspiration from him because he has, I think, about like 30 or 35, maybe even 40,000 subscribers now on YouTube. And I mean, there are a lot of kids that know him and stuff. And the first day I went to him, I asked him because I realized that his live videos that he did. So like if I go on Zoom and I show the kids the whiteboard, they can't see me. However, I realized that in his videos, you're seeing the whiteboard as well as seeing him in the picture. You know what I mean? Which kind of brings it to life. So you're appealing to that student that likes to be in the classroom seeing the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you're also appealing to making the person who likes to learn at home actually still be able to do so. And I asked him, how he did it. And funny enough, and I really respect people like that who have made it to a certain point and are okay with sharing information.
Yeah.
So, he openly, if I should be honest, he openly told me exactly the software he used, exactly what he did. Of course, I had to go and look it up, but I think that's fair. I feel like people don't need to handhold you. It's not as if, because I think sometimes people, whenever you ask maybe somebody who has gone through it before, how did you get there? And they give you advice. Some persons will say, no, but they never really tell me anything. But sometimes you need to understand that, yeah, they're not going to do it for you. They're going to tell you how to do it. You know what I mean? Like, you have to do your part as well. And I feel like he gave me the information that I needed. So, I went out, looked it up, I realized I needed a green screen. So I'll movie director, turn away Elizabeth, So there I get green screen, I get the camera stand. Luckily enough, I didn't even have a camera stand at the time. So like my fiance had to be there and he was like holding up the camera for me. And it was just a thing until, I could eventually afford the camera stand. Because even that I think is a challenge for Jamaican entrepreneurs. Like it's so expensive to ship equipment into the country, especially think about this is for an educational purpose. You know what I mean? Like I think that's something that the government needs to do to support their like local persons, especially people who are in the creative industry, whether they want to be on YouTube or just certain equipment. I understand it may not be for everything, but there are certain equipments I feel like
it's a
we
struggle.
have to do something. I literally end up paying double the price, which doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? So then we're already put at a disadvantage in comparison to somebody who is somewhere else, So I think that is something that we definitely can improve on as well.
All right. So you have your whole setup. You say you got your green screen and everything. So you're uploading on YouTube then now.
Yes. So, persons can find me on YouTube at MathWiz Tutors.
Okay.
So the marathon that I did, I have posted the videos from those. I have also posted, just me working out some CXC questions. Of course, when I'm fully through with, my current job and I switch full time to MathWiz, which is the end of this month, I plan to make some more time to do YouTube videos because again, Elizabeth, even though I want to do the one-on-one or like the small group sessions for tutoring, my aim is still to reach as many persons. Like that's still, if I should be honest with you, the goal is still to try and reach as many persons. And I know I can't do that with the small sessions. Like even if I wanted to, it's still one of me. So I feel like YouTube is just my avenue to reach as many Jamaicans and as many persons in the Caribbean as possible. Right. Like that's where I envision YouTube in terms of playing its part in MathWiz.
Right. So are you just uploading videos on one topic at a time or one question at a time? How are you structuring it?
No, I actually want to upload, so a little bit for CSEC, a little bit for grade 10. I know that the demand listening to parents, it really has been centered around grade 10 and grade 11. Of course, I do teach college math as well. And so I think I'm going to try to maybe So like the ones which aren't the most popular, I probably won't do those every week. But for sure, I definitely think I want to be posting, like, for grade 10 and grade 11. And I'm going to try to get the curriculum that they have so that I can maybe try to follow. I know every school doesn't really follow the curriculum in terms of when they do what topics, but I would maybe follow that so that if a student is in school and they come home, they can go and watch that video,
Right.
Yeah. And something else that I want to do on the YouTube channel is to, like, go in half a tree, go downtown, those kind of things, and just interact with like the average person, and ask them some questions like basic math questions that I think everybody should know, just to see that, just to kind of
fun.
I was actually saying it to my fiance, same thing. I was telling him, like, I want to be a household name, and I feel like if you want to be a household name, you have to reach the households. So I was saying, how am I going to reach the households? And I'm like, okay, well, these YouTubers, who do these vox pop or, other little things, like people like things they can relate to. So I think apart from the literal math sessions, I want to
make it kind of fun.
Go and interact with the people. Right, exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, you're going to ask, like, what is a prime number? And, of course, you'll have the persons who said the right answer, the wrong answer. But then at the end of it, I would want to be able to tell if they do get it wrong, be able to, in a very fun way, like, explain to them what is the right answer. So as much as it's fun and games, it's like it's still me educating them, So that's really a big part of the project that I'm waiting to do, which I can't, like, I'm so excited about that part.
Yes, that would be great to watch. I love watching those kinds of things. And as you said, you put the little educational spin on it at the end.
Right.
So that's nice. So you mentioned earlier that you had that big Zoom call with persons coming in from all over the Caribbean.
Right.
So can you just share a little bit more about that? What was that like? Some of the details of that, and what do you think about it upon reflection now?
Okay, so I was having the free Zoom classes for about a month before the actual CXC exams. And I mean, to be honest, like the first session I had, Elizabeth, it was me, my fiance, and one of my other friends, because she just came on, just to peek in to see what was happening. And when she came on, she said, wait, but nobody not in the class. And, I mean, at that day, and I think that is where, you really have to, at that point, you realize if something is your passion or not, because I could have easily just given up and said, okay, well, nobody's not coming. So, you know what? I'm not going to bother do it. But I said to myself, I was like, Mikiela, no, this is the first day. Just give it time to keep building, like maybe you just need to spread the word some more, ask some more people to post it. And then, by the next session, I realized that, a few more persons came on. So maybe by like the second week, I had a very loyal set of about 8 to 10. So I was like, all right, this is good. The point is just to help even one student, right? And then the day before exam now, I expected that it would be more students than I had before. Because it's the day before exam, everybody going to come last minute. But I was thinking, okay, maybe 20, maybe 25, the most. I promise you, Elizabeth, before the actual time of the session, which I think it began at 6, or was it 4? I don't know. Like, let's say it even began at 6. I'm telling you that I went on 5:30, just to be there before the students, just in case anybody was coming on early. When I went on at 5:30, I saw about like 40 students. And I was like, but it's 30 minutes before. I was like, whoa. This is crazy, But at that time, I still wasn't even anticipating the number which I'm about to tell you. You know what I mean? So I was there and I was like, okay then. And then, as it's getting closer to the time, I see the numbers growing and growing and growing. And at this time now, I'm totally freaking out now, Elizabeth, because I'm like, well, it's one thing for me to teach, a 15 or a 10 students. And again, if it was in person, like no problem at all. But I've never taught so many students online at once,
Yeah.
So, it was there, and then maybe 5 minutes before I saw 80 students, and my heart was pounding. I'm not even going to lie. I was so nervous. And I was like, well, Mikiela, now's the day you're going to see if you're going to show up for yourself or not, And I was so, so nervous. And then maybe at 5 minutes after the hour, which we began, it was like maxed out. I didn't even know, and it was maxed out. And then students were calling. So even my usual students, they came on at 7, and then some of them couldn't come on because, they've been coming on for 2 weeks, 3 weeks now, and they were not, being maxed out wasn't an issue. So I think they were just strolling in and
thinking,
I think, man, my spot is secured, So, some of them were messaging me, and I guess because, persons have told me that, my attachment to people is I guess a weakness for some. I consider it a strength. So, I definitely had become attached to those students that I was working with before, and I was saying to myself, well, I definitely can't let them down. You know what I mean? So I ended up even doing a second session that same night, and I didn't finish until like 11 because I was saying, well, I have to help them. Like, I know that I'm tired and all of that, but they needed the help. So when I did the second session, about 50 of them came on. So I think in total, I guess 150 that first night came on. And it was just wow. It was just wow. And that was for CSEC math. Then some persons were asking me about economics. I wasn't planning to do an econ marathon, but then I was like, well, if they're asking, I mean, as I said, my master's was in economics. I was like, why not? I did it, about 30 of them came on. And then when I did ad math, now about 80 of them came on. So of course, CSEC math, which is the one that everybody does, that one was the biggest one. But then even while speaking to them, I realized I was picking up some accents and that kind of thing. And then persons were telling me about time difference. So I was saying, wait, where are you guys from? And then I realized that they were from Trinidad, Anguilla, Belize, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They're telling me, like, it was just a whole list. And I was just like, oh, so I was like, how did you guys ever hear about it? But I was saying to myself, that's just the power of, I think, social media. And I think that they kind of opened my eyes to say, wow, like this really isn't impossible. You know what I mean? And the reach really can happen. It's just a matter of being consistent and using all these avenues, getting to the spaces that students are, because it's clear that if I even get to one person from a St. Vincent, for example, that means that they can start to spread the word, and I think that's how it works, especially in education. It's kind of like a word of mouth thing that really works in terms of reputation for educational companies. But it was an absolutely phenomenal experience, Elizabeth. I think it gave me the confidence that I needed, because it was one thing for me to even do the sessions, but like the comments after were just so encouraging, like who wasn't telling me to come to the country to teach, was, just telling me how grateful they were. And it was just, I don't know, like honestly, it was so many good comments. And it's one thing for you to think you can teach. And I know somebody asked me recently as well, they were saying, like, how do I know I'm a good teacher? And I wasn't really sure how to answer them. I was just like, I just know, but hearing it from students who I know I definitely was just teaching for the first time, they can't see my face. All I'm getting to use to communicate with them is just my voice and what I'm doing on the screen. And, like they were just saying, I made it so easy. And I think it was just like me saying, yes, this is reassurance that there's a natural talent there that I just need to nurture and, do and just continue to learn how to make it into a business now. And I really think I will be able to really touch some lives.
Right. So your vision, would you say your vision is to just in the future maybe have more tutors come on and teach different subject areas, or do you want it to be solely focused on math for as long as you can have the business running?
So that's a good question, Elizabeth. That's a great question. I've been thinking about it as well. At first, I remember somebody asked me and I was saying, no, man, I just want to teach math. I don't even want extra tutors. I just want myself, And I was thinking about that because I think as well, it just becomes scary when you think about, oh my gosh, like a whole business, you want me to be in charge? That's a different story. But then, I saw it happening. And even, as I said, there are so many parents coming to me and I realized, oh, I may actually not be able to do this all by myself. So already I think I've had to start contemplating how will I scale this, My thing is I do wonder how I'm going to find teachers that I think I can trust, because for me, I know teaching is not just teaching, like I would need to know that there are teachers anybody who's going to work with me, like they have to be passionate. Like I have to see them teach and know that, okay, when a child isn't getting it, they should not feel okay to just move ahead knowing that that child is really not getting it. You know what I mean? Like I need to see that kind of burning passion inside of them just naturally for teaching, so that yes, they will be paid well, but that is not about the money. You know what I mean? And so I don't want to only do math. I mean, there are other subjects that persons have been asking about. Again, if I should be honest, that wasn't the vision at first, but then I do see that there will be a need for it, especially if persons start to trust the brand of MathWiz. Then it means that, it won't be hard for me to then find passionate teachers in IT or computer science or economics or something else and provide that avenue for students to, get the help that they deserve.
Right. So I think that's a testament to entrepreneurship too. I mean, you may start off thinking you're going to do something and you don't know where it's going to go. So
definitely.
There you go. So I know you mentioned that, internet challenges, communication challenges, and just maybe a little bit of self-doubt here and there. But what other challenges can you think of that you've been facing in this time period that has really stood out to you? If you can think of any more.
Yeah, I was because I like to prep before my interviews, and to be honest, the challenges, those are the ones I really came up with. Since speaking with you, I think the only other thing would just be, as I said, I think there's a lack of knowledge that we have as it relates to how to teach online. Yeah. And I think now what I'm trying to do is figure out, okay, like what avenues are there available for me to like learn how to better teach online, and yes, I've been, there's some YouTube videos. I don't know if there are any courses there's that I plan to do as well. But I think that's the biggest thing, especially because school is right around the corner. It's one thing for you to say, yeah, man, over time you can learn more things. But as I said, I think there's a sense of urgency that is needed to come up with this solution. You know what I mean? So I don't really think we can rely on just saying, okay, man, over time teachers will learn how to do it. So one of the biggest challenges I think I'm facing right now is just figuring out how am I going to innovate, like how am I going to make this learning experience the best for students so that if it is that they're not going back to school or they're not seeing the face-to-face, maybe because parents are also concerned about, if it is that they're ready for their, child to go back in that environment, like how am I going to ensure that when they finish with MathWiz, not only are they successful, but they had such a wonderful experience that they have no doubts in their mind that they want to tell somebody else about it. So yeah, but that's, I think the challenges I mentioned before, as well as I said, just the lack of knowledge on where I even go to find out how to become a better online teacher.
Right, understood. So say I'm a parent and I have a child, or I have a friend who needs some help with math. Where do I go to find you? How do I sign up for these Zoom classes? What does that look like?
Okay, so you can send an email to info.mathwiz@gmail.com. So that's info.mathwiz@gmail.com. So that's info.mathwiz@gmail.com. Or you can DM us on Instagram at MathWiz Tutors. I would give you my name, but my name is too long, and I know that's going to cause confusion. So yes, you can DM at MathWiz Tutors, and of course you can also call. So especially that, I think that's the fastest way to get through to me. So you can call at 451. If you're not in Jamaica, that's 876-451. 4876. And then of course you can, that wouldn't really be a way to get through to me, but you can all like, subscribe, and share my YouTube channel, which is MathWiz Tutors, with whether it is your child or somebody else.
Okay, great. So before we close out, I just want to close out with some kind of like rapid fire questions. Don't feel pressured to answer like in 5 seconds or anything, but just give me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is, who do you admire the most and why?
Okay, between two people, between my mother and Terry Carell Reid. My mother, because as I said, I think for somebody who was not given the educational opportunity, I feel like I've seen her just show that education, comes from many experiences just around you. So, my mother for that instance, and just for all the support that she has given. But then of course, I think in a professional sense, I would definitely say Terry Carell. I think she has the right amount of being authentic and being herself while still maintaining a brand that is, unique to her, not compromising. I feel like everybody knows at all times that you without even speaking to her, you know what her standards, or you can assume what her standards are, So yeah, for me, it would definitely be my mother and Terry Carell.
Okay, great. What's the best business book that you've read?
I don't even know if I'd want to say it's a business book, but I guess yes. But it's The Go Giver, and for me, I think that book just really touched me because it allowed me to just introspect. You know what I mean? Just to introspect, to understand that life is not only about what you get, but what you give, and the more you give is the more you will get. And especially being an entrepreneur, I think it's very easy as you start to make money. You'll start to think, okay, how can I get more? How can I get more? But I think the more important thing is, okay, how can I serve more? So yeah, that book definitely is something I'm keeping in mind even while doing MathWiz.
Okay. What's the worst advice you've ever been given?
Ooh, what's the worst advice?
If you can
sure. I
think
feel
of
like that one is,
anything.
yeah, I was going to say, I feel like that's really a fire question.
If you don't know the worst, you can give me the best.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but in terms of the worst, I would want to say, I think somebody basically told me that I should not pursue my passion in terms of like doing MathWiz because of, I guess they were just saying that, you'd earn more money if you're an actor or if you're working at BOG or something like that. And I just think it was the worst advice because what's the sense if you're making a lot of money but you're still unhappy? You know what I mean? And I feel like it's clear that that person was not in a place of being happy themselves or understanding true happiness, you know. So clearly that is why they gave success from that angle or that perspective.
Mm-hmm. And so from that, what would you say then has been the best advice that you've been given?
What has been the best advice? I think that would be from probably from my mother. I mean, she has said it in different ways, but I think her constant message to me has always been like, whatever you're going to do, just ensure you're giving it your best, you know? Like, so if you're going to be a baker, just ensure that you're the best baker. And if you're going to be, you know, at one point I actually wanted to be a DJ in my life, and she told me, okay, she'll support me as long as I do everything to be the best DJ that I can be. And I mean, yes, that phase passed, but I just feel like it was, as I say, the best advice, just because whatever you're going to do, I think in a world that we live in now, you know, it's very easy for you to always want to compare yourself, and you say, okay, how can I go on YouTube if there's so many other YouTubers? How can I start my math company if there's so many other math companies? But it's not so much about focusing on others. It's just about saying, okay, how do I continuously make myself better and be the best version of me? So,
right.
Yeah.
Excellent advice. So thank you so much. This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed learning more about you, about MathWiz. Thank you so much.
No problem, Elizabeth. It was my pleasure being here.
Okay, great. I wish you all the best, and I will be keeping up with you and your company and all the success that I'm sure is to come.
Okay, thank you so much, Elizabeth. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Sure, no problem. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Okay, there you have it, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really enjoyed having this conversation with Mikiela. As you all have heard, she's very smart, she's very educated, and obviously very passionate about what she's doing. Please make sure to follow her on Instagram and Twitter, and keep up with MathWiz on YouTube as well. And if you have any, desires to learn more about math, or join her Zoom sessions, please make sure to email her as well at info.mathwiz@gmail.com, as she mentioned. Can't wait to see what more MathWiz has for us in the future, and I'm super excited to follow her on her journey. So without further ado, that's the end of today's episode. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. See you guys for the next one.